Check your bank app right now. Go on, look at the number. Now think back to the first of the month. That number was bigger. Nothing dramatic happened, no emergency, no big purchase you can point to. It just shrank a little here, a little there, and now you're staring at a screen wondering who robbed you. Nobody robbed you. You did it to yourself in 100 small transactions you don't even remember making. And here's the part that stings. You probably think the fix is a raise, more income. If only you made an extra 1,000 a month, everything would sort itself out. It wouldn't, because the problem was never the size of the income. It's the size of the hole.
Go back to Japan, 1904. A woman named Hani Motoko has just become the country's first female journalist. She's spending her days interviewing bankers, economists, factory owners, men who talk about money like it's a machine with levers you pull. But she notices something they don't. She notices it in her own kitchen, in her neighbors' kitchens, in letters from readers. Families with decent incomes are still drowning. Families with modest incomes are somehow fine. The difference has nothing to do with how much comes in. It's about whether anyone in the house is actually awake when the money leaves. So she builds a tool, not a bank product, not a clever investment, a notebook. She calls it Kakeibo, Household Financial Ledger. On paper, it sounds like the most boring invention in human history. In practice, it's closer to a discipline than a spreadsheet. It's less accounting, more confession. Because a ledger doesn't just record what happened, it makes you sit with it. Here's an experiment researchers have run for decades. Hand someone cash and ask them to buy something. Then hand someone else a card for the identical purchase. The card group spends more, sometimes a lot more, every single time. Cash has weight. When you peel bills out of your wallet, your hand notices. Your brain logs a small loss, and that loss asks a question on your behalf. Is this actually worth it? A tap, a swipe, a one-click checkout. None of that weighs anything. Your balance doesn't visibly change. Your brain never gets the memo that anything left the bill. Economists have a clinical name for this: decoupling. The moment of enjoying a purchase gets surgically separated from the moment of paying for it. And modern commerce isn't an accident here. Auto renewals, saved cards, one-tap checkout. These aren't conveniences that happen to exist. They're designed on purpose to keep that gap as wide as possible. The wider the gap, the less friction. The more you buy without ever quite noticing you bought anything. Motoko was fighting this exact mechanism over a century before anyone had a word for it. Her answer was almost stubbornly analog. No apps, no spreadsheets, just a pen. Typing 40 into a budgeting app registers as nothing. Your fingers barely know they moved. But writing 40 by hand at the end of a long day forces your eyes back over the transaction. You have to meet it again. You have to ask, quietly, was that coffee worth 40 minutes of my time? Sometimes yes. More often, uncomfortably, no.
Most people who try to budget quit within a week, and it's not because they're undisciplined. It's because they build a system with 30 categories, and it collapses under its own weight. Groceries, gas, streaming, gym, pet food, gifts. Nobody can maintain that for long. Kakeibo throws almost all of it out and keeps 4 boxes: survival, rent, food, utilities, medicine. Skip this and something breaks. Wants, restaurants, new clothes, nights out. Skip this and you're bored, not endangered. Culture, books, a course, a museum ticket, something that grows you rather than just distracts you. This is the box most Western budgets don't even have a slot for. Unexpected. The car repair, the vet bill, the wedding gift you didn't see coming.
The point isn't cataloging what you bought. It's being honest about why. You tell yourself the $7 coffee is survival. It isn't. Caffeine costs you 30 cents as a pill. The coffee is a want wearing survival's clothes. You tell yourself the new jacket is necessary. Is the old one falling apart? Or are you just bored of it? Sort a month of receipts into 4 honest boxes, and you'll usually find a lopsided picture. Wants overflowing, culture completely empty. That's not a moral failing. It's a mirror. It's telling you that you've been feeding your comfort and starving your growth. And you never noticed because nobody made you count.
Every month, Kakeibo asks you to sit down on day one and answer 4 questions. What's coming in? What do I want to save? What do I have to spend on survival? And what will I do differently this time? That second question is where the entire system flips on its head. The Western default is income minus spending equals savings. You live your month, and whatever happens to be left over, if anything, becomes your savings. For most people, that number is 0 because spending is elastic. It stretches to fill whatever room you give it.
Kakeibo reverses the formula. Income minus savings equals spending. You move the saving to day one before a single bill is paid, before a single want is indulged. Then you live on what's left. If it runs out early, it runs out. You get creative. You cook instead of order. You walk instead of ride. This isn't a coincidence. It's Parkinson's law wearing a financial costume. Give yourself $2,000 of visible spending room, and you will, without fail, find $2,000 of things that suddenly feel necessary. Give yourself $1,500, because $500 already quietly left for savings, and you'll survive on $1,500 just fine. The constraint isn't punishment. It's what actually produces discipline, because willpower alone rarely does.
If you're carrying debt, Kakeibo treats it the way old warrior codes treated an unpaid obligation, not as a number, but as a leash. Money owed to someone else means your future hours are already spoken for. You're not working toward what you want. You're working to pay off a version of yourself that no longer exists. The first weapon against this is almost embarrassingly physical: cash envelopes. Whatever category keeps bleeding you, takeout, impulse shopping, you withdraw the exact budgeted cash on day one and put it in an envelope. When it's empty, spending in that category stops. No overdraft bails you out. No, I'll figure it out later. An empty envelope is a wall your brain actually respects, in a way a digital balance never quite manages.
Then there's the debt itself. The mathematically correct move is to attack the highest interest rate first, the avalanche method. But Kakeibo isn't optimizing for a spreadsheet. It's optimizing for morale. Attack your biggest debt first, and you might fight for 2 years with almost nothing to show for it, and quit. Instead, list every debt smallest to largest. Ignore the interest rate entirely. Kill the smallest one first, completely. That single win, one line permanently crossed off, does something a decade of interest rate math never will. It gives you proof that this is winnable. You take that proof, roll the freed up payment into the next smallest balance, and the pile shrinks faster with every kill. Debt survives on hopelessness. This method starves it of exactly that.
Motoko wasn't trying to make anyone wealthy. She was trying to make people calm. There's a specific hum that comes from money anxiety. Not a crisis, just a constant low static running under everything. Can I cover this? What if something breaks? It's there when you wake up, and it's there when you're trying to fall asleep. And it quietly taxes your attention on everything else in your life. Writing the numbers down doesn't just organize your finances, it drains the hum. Vague dread, I'm bad with money, becomes a specific, solvable fact. I'm sitting $140 over budget this month. A feeling can't be fixed. A number can. And there's a strange side effect waiting on the other end of this. Once you stop feeding the wants box mindlessly, you often discover you didn't actually want most of it. You were buying it to feel something, or to keep up with people whose opinion you don't even value. Cut that out, and the money reappears. Not for more stuff, but for the culture box, for books, for a class, for the version of your life that actually grows instead of just distracts. You don't need a bigger income to stop the bleeding. You need to see where the holes actually are. And right now, most people can't because they've never once written it down. So here's the question. What's one thing you're spending on right now that brings you genuinely zero joy? A subscription you forgot you had? A habit you keep out of pure autopilot? Name it in the comments. And be honest about whether you're willing to cut it this month. Plug the hole, then watch what happens to the bucket.